let's get started. We've got about 30 people now, so it's a good number. Yeah, so welcome to the web scraping seminar. We're using Python this time. And again, we have Yu Young Lee, who is the director for IT at the library. And she really knows everything about this web scraping stuff. So go for it, Yu Young. Oh,
Okay.
sorry, I always keep forgetting this. We're recording this session. So if you don't like the recording, let me know and I'll cut it out. Sorry, that's all I had to do.
Okay, so I'm gonna share my screen first. And also I share my URL in the chat. So if you want to follow along the way, there is a URL in the chat. So welcome to the web scraping with Python today. So my name is again Yu Young Lee, and I'm the head information technology at the University of Ottawa Libraries. And then as usual, I would like to thank you to Jarno, who gave me this amazing opportunity and then helped me to run this workshop. And then thank you everyone for attending and spending the next 90 minutes with me. So this workshop is really designed for a beginner who never or rarely does web scraping with Python before, or so a little bit of basic programming skill is needed, but I will go through everything step by step, so you don't really need to worry about even if you've never done anything with the Python as well. In addition, you need to have Google account to use Google Code Lab, which is also the Jupyter notebook base. And then I'm going to explain more detail later. So you can do some hands-on exercise along with the workshop with me. So by the end of this workshop, you will be able to explain what web scraping is and understand sort of the basic web syntax, HTML and CSS and structure. So the HTML document 3, identify Python libraries, especially request and beautiful soup for web scraping, and use Python to do simple web scraping. If you attended my workshop on web scraping with Excel and Google Sheet, so the first part would be repetitive, but I will go through them quickly. So here is a brief schedule for the next 90 minutes. So I will basically, so the first 10 and 20 minutes, I will cover the sort of the overview of the workshop, basic concepts of what web scraping is, and basic rules of HTML and CSS, which are the critical part of the web scraping. Then I will demonstrate sort of the how to use Python to do the web scraping. And then there will be some hands-on exercise so that you can better understand and apply what you've learned. So if you attend my workshop before, I always wanted to have some quick, some time kind of to get to know you and introduce myself a little bit about the web scraping as well. But since this is a virtual workshop and then a little bit over than 30, so we can really go around to introduce ourselves, unfortunately. So instead, I'm going to ask you a few questions in the poll soon. So Jarno, can you up the first question, please?
Yep, should be going now.
So what is your status at U Ottawa? Yes. Is professor instructor? Yes. Oh, Okay, can you close it? So we have both graduate and researchers. That's great. Oops, sorry about that. And then can you launch the question 2?
Let's see. They changed the interface on me again.
Okay.
That's weird. I'm not sure if this will work, but let's try. Oh, yeah.
So where did you hear about this workshop? Okay, so can you close it, please? Okay, mostly email and New Ottawa Research Newsletter. It's good to know.
So for the first poll, though, I didn't see the results. Maybe
Okay.
describe the results.
Okay.
If you still have them, maybe you don't.
Yeah, I think they're gone.
We have mostly graduate students and then researchers, if I remember correctly.
Thank you.
And then can you see the poll result, the question 2?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I found the right button for that this time.
Okay. And then the question 3, please. Yes, correct. Yeah, professors are also researchers. Yes. So have you done web scraping with any tools before? Not necessarily Pythons, but like Excel, Google Sheets, or R? Okay, can you close it? Okay, mostly no, but few people have some experience with web scraping. That's good. So you may hear again some of the one that I told or discussed before, but again, that might be good time kind of to review. Okay, so the last question. Okay, so what is your skill level with Python? Okay, can you close it? Okay, most of us are beginner. That's really great. And then if you're sort of the intermediate or advanced, this workshop may not be really for you. You may already know some of them, so just wanted to let you know in advance. So that's good. So thank you again for your participation. Oops. So about me, I have been interested in web scraping since 2015 because simply I was sort of the tired of manually copying and pasting information from the web. So I learned API, the application programming interface, to extract data from one system to the other. But with API option wasn't always available all the time. So since then, I applied the web scraping to do my daily task as a librarian and conduct research and share my knowledge at web scraping through sort of the workshops at conference or other venues like this. So that's about me around the web scraping. So, oops, I don't think that you can see here. Okay. So, according to Wikipedia, which is one of my favorite sources as well, so web scraping focus on the transformation of unstructured data on the web, typically in HTML format, into structured data that can be stored and analyzed in a central local database or spreadsheet. In other words, it is an automated process to extract and parse data from the web and store them in a structured way. So my interpretation of web scraping in a simple term is that there is data or information on the web that I would like to scrap to the spreadsheet or table format. Instead of simply copying and pasting, web scraping allows me to do so automatically. There are various techniques to collect data from the web depending on what tools you use to do, such as Excel and Google Sheet that I covered previously, and then OpenRefine, R, and Python, and other types of like any types of programming languages. So web scraping sounds really good solution, like even better than simply like copy and paste, but there are limitations. So it is not really perfect and it might not work well in some of the cases. So web scraping is fundamentally designed to handle simple websites. For example, if the websites follow traditional HTML coding practice like numeric pagination, web scraping works really well to download data from the web. But as you know, these days, a lot of modern websites adapt dynamic content strategies like pulling content from databases or other application, and that's not really work well for simple web scraping strategy. And then web scraping enable you to download quite large amount of data in an automated way, but it can't really handle large scale, like millions of records at a time. And the last one that I want to mention, the web changes frequently with the new interface, which means that they change their HTML code in the back end. So your web scraping may not work anymore, although it worked really well in the past. Not only a limitation, but also there are ethical challenges around web scraping, like copyright. There are rules, protocols, and best practice around web scraping. So it is important to ask yourself the following questions whenever you do the web scraping. So even though one of the key highlights of web scraping is automation, there should be always a human intervention. So it is your responsibility to verify the data. So eyeball the data you've downloaded to see if it makes sense. So data is a good way to look for a story, but remember it was there, like it was put by people. So you need to make sure it's a step of the process and consider how you maintain the data to protect like other people's life. So here are the best practice to follow to the web scraping. So always check the rules of robot text file, which tell you exactly what is allowed and not allowed. And also some of the websites have their terms of service specifically where you can find like what you can or can't do regarding web scraping. And when you run your web scraping tool, just be gentle with a website. So don't request many things at a time to the website because they may not have a capacity to handle a lot of traffic at the same time. And the last rule, if you're not sure, just contact the web owner and simply ask them if a web scraping is okay for them. So knowing HTML in detail is not really necessary for web scraping, especially these days because everything is really built for you already. But knowing them will make your life a lot easier as most web scraping tools use a website structure like the HTML structures and CSS to navigate the page and identify the content that you want to scrape. So HTML in a typically it's composed of elements. So these elements structure the web page and define its content. So let's take a look at how they were written here. So the example on this slide displays an HTML paragraph element, so the P. As you can see, the paragraph element is made of the opening tag, so the bracket P and bracket, and then the content that you want to display, and then closing tag with the bracket slash P and then bracket. So there are many tags that we can use to organize and display the text and other types of contents like image and video. So that's sort of the nutshell about the HTML element. And then the other one that I want to mention is the attribute and its value. So the attributes here, class equal nice. So attributes basically provide additional and descriptive information about that HTML elements. So as you can see here in these examples, attributes are always placed within the opening tag right after the tag name, so the P, and then they enable that specification of options for how the content of that tag should be handled. Again, you don't really need to know the HTML in detail, but this basic understanding, so the element and attributes, will be really helpful, especially when you do the web scraping with the Python. I saw one question in the chat. So does the class related to CSS? It depends, but in this case, yes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So how to extract values or data from the HTML document? There are three standard procedures. So one is Express queries. So that's mostly used for Excel and Google Sheet. And then the element and CSS selector that we are going to use for Python, and then regular expression. So this workshop really focused on the selector components because it worked really well in most cases, especially with the Python. Some of you may already know this, but I'd like to quickly show you how to use the developer tool, especially when you need to inspect like what is the HTML element and then the attributes. So I'm using the Google Chrome, but any browsers have any browsers provide this developer tools. So I'm going to, since I'm a librarian, I'm going to our library website. So I want to inspect sort of the web page here. So if you use Google Chrome, there is a 3 dot here, and then more tools, and then the developer tools, and then you can see sort of the element. And then I want to know, so for example, let's say I want to grab advanced search here, and then you can just simply, so you need to click on the pointer here, and then click the element that you want to inspect, and then it brings you to the HTML document where it is written. So as you can see here, it's around UL and then LI and then A element. And then this is going to be really helpful when you need to inspect the HTML document because as you can see, it's really long, and any other website, it's really long and it's hard to manually search where it is located. So this type of tool is really helpful, not just for the web scraping with Python, or any tools. Okay, so I'm gonna close here. Okay, so before moving to the Python and Google Collaboratory, do you have any questions? Okay. So Python is one of the most popular and general purpose programming languages, covering from web development to machine learning. And compared to other programming languages, it's really easy, intuitive, and very user-friendly. Um, so for the Python environment, so Python is just a language, and we need a place where we can write the Python. So for the Python environment, I chose Google Colab, which is a free cloud-based Jupyter Notebook environment. So from my experience, one of the most challenging part when it comes to Python is really the versioning, because Python has several versions and sometimes it causes some compatibility issue. So for today's workshop, we will use Google Colab with Python version 3. But if you have your own Jupyter Notebook running in your environment, that should work. And also there are other types of the Python environment, such as MyBinder, but it's up to you. But for today, I'm going to use Google Colab because that's everyone has sort of the Google accounts. So these are the most used Python libraries for web scraping. And then today we are going to learn the request and then beautiful soup basically. So the request library enables you to send a HTTP request to the URL of the web page that you want to access. And then the server responds to the request by returning the HTML content of the web page. And I'm going to demo quickly. So even if you don't understand right now the theory, that's totally fine as well. So the requests basically, so we can get the website, but request doesn't really parse data. So that's where the beautiful soups comes in. So this library allows us to parse to create sort of the nested tree structure of that HTML data and then navigate the parse tree that we created. And then LXML is another parcel library, and then Selenium does handle sort of the JavaScript, and then Scrapy is really the framework for web scraping, but these require a little bit of advanced knowledge, so we are not going to cover them today. So again, in a nutshell, so we will learn how to apply request to get the data on the web, and then beautiful soup to download, parse, and extract data. And then for saving that information, usually pandas and CSV libraries they are applied. But again, for this workshop, we are not going to focus on pandas and CV. Rather, I'm gonna just show you how you can save in the sort of the tabular format for later's use. Oops. So the process, I really like to, I'm the person who go through sort of the step by step. So I just put sort of the process that I go through when I do the web scraping. So the first step always is to identify information or in the HTML document that I want to scrap. And then in the Python, I need to download that document into that Python environment using request library. And then I need to parse that document. And then I'm going to use beautiful soup to do that. And then I need to sort of develop sort of the queries. And then I can use the browser developer too, just to inspect that HTML document and then extract information using beautiful soup and then save them using pandas and CSV. And then again, I'm going to show you in demo quickly. So I want you to, so let me put the URL. So I want you to go to the Google Colab Jupyter lab environment. And then just wait, please. Don't edit directly in this document yet. And then I'm going to show you how to create your own copy as well. So everyone got the Jupyter Notebook in Google Code Lab? Can you please indicate maybe in the chat by maybe raise your hand if you, oh yeah, the green sign once you're done. Yeah, green or thumbs up.
Where did you get that particular Python notebook?
That's the by default. I just created this one for today's workshop. So
Oh, okay. So we don't have access to that right now. We just have.
I put the link so you can go to that link. Can you see the URL?
Yeah, I see it now. Sorry, I had a different. I just had a blank notebook open. So
That's fine. I mean, when you go to directly, that's the one that you see all the time.
thank you.
No problem. So then, so again, don't edit directly in this document. So in order to create your own copy, so if you go to File, and then save a copy in Drive. I mean, if you have like the GitHub, then you can do so, but the Google Drive is the easiest way. So today, so if you click this one, then so we have a copy. So you have your own copy of the demo web scraping. So can you indicate once you have your own copy? Okay, good. So so these are the demo and simple hands-on exercise with the Request and Beautiful Soup Python libraries. And then I want you to go through with me because usually in any programming language, like it's easy. So it's always better to do like get your hands dirty instead of just watching and then listening. So in Python, there is default functions built in with the Python, but Python is sort of the open source community. So there are lots of people who created like the modules, libraries, or some functions already for us. So we don't really need to write a code in Python to do some of the work. So the first thing, so in this case, so the first thing we need to do is always we need to import those libraries. So in order to the import, there are several ways to import any documents. So I'm sorry, any libraries or modules. So first way, the simple way, you can just type the import and then the name of the library. So in this case, I want to import request. So I'm just put the import and then request. And then the second way to import, because sometimes some libraries has lots of functions already. So for example, from the Beautiful Soup libraries, we just want to use a function called Beautiful Soup. So that's the only one that I want to use. Then I can say like from the name of the libraries or name of the module. So the beautiful soup, the name of the library's old module is BS4. So from that particular, from the name of the module, just import a beautiful soup function. Oops. So there are two ways. So either way can be used, but it's important to distinguish because it impacts the way you call the function from those libraries later. So you can just simply click on this run cell. And then like those two libraries that we want to use were imported to this environment. And then the other thing that I want to mention, so most of the commonly used Python libraries are pre-installed in Google Colab, but if you want to install new library, something like that, you can just put the I don't know how to say in English, but exclamation mark, I guess. So and then pip install and then the name of the Python library, and then you can see my comments here. So later you can use that one as well. So that's the first step in Python. And then the second step, so we have to set the URL that we want to scrap from, right? So I'm gonna create a new variable named URL, and then I'm gonna use the library's website. So I'm gonna just copy the URL of the library and then paste. So we set the URL here. And then we need to connect that URL so that we need to download the document to this environment so that later they can sort of read through that document. So what we need to do, so I'm gonna create another variable called response. And then since we import the library, the request library, so we can use one function from that request. So one of the functions that we are going to use from that request libraries in order to get the URL. So it's the request. So that's the name of the request library dot get. So I'm going to use get function from request and then URL. So since I already put the URL here, so that's basically the URL of the library website that I'm interested in. And then just to see how this is response. So I'm gonna put the response and then run the cell. And then I got 200 visitors. So that means the website is live. But just want to show another example. So let's say the URL. So what happens if the URL is forbidden or not available? So I run the cell again, the response for O3. So that means it's forbidden. And then there is nothing we can really get from the website. So first thing you always check is really you need to check that you have to have that 200 wizard. So I'm gonna just comment this and then just uncomment. So we have that 200 wizard. Any questions so far? And then the other way to verify sort of if this URL, so the other way to verify if we get the response from the server. So we got the result from response. So one way you can do is so response dot status code. And then if you run, you get just the 200. That means you got it. What does that mean, HTTPS only? Can you explain a little bit more about your question so that I can answer better? You can come back later. That's fine. And then you can identify the headers as well. So response.headers, and then if you run the cell, and then you can
Sorry,
see
I couldn't find my I couldn't find my microphone.
no problem.
Does the URL address has to be HTTPS, or could it be an HTTP?
You can use HTTP, I believe, but these days, because of the new rules, I think most of the website have just HTTPS.
Thank you.
No problem. So if you want to sort of investigate the headers information, so you can just put the response.headers, and then you can see like the server, its Nginx, date, and then content type, the character set, the content length connection, like all those headers information as well. And then if you just want to see the encoding information of that web document, you can just type response.encoding. And then if you run, and then that's UTP-8. And then if you want to know, so the text of that HTML document, so you can type the response.text, and then you get all the that HTML document as text. So if the response is an invalid syntax, is there a way around this, or is the website preventing scraping? What do you mean exactly by invalid syntax? Jean-Sebastian answer. So you have to, did you put the double quotation mark? While waiting for answer for the encoding. So that's sort of the character set. Sometimes, so for example, like the French, so since we are bilingual environment, like there is a certain French characters. So in order to display those properly, there are different set of encoding schema. And then the most used one is really the UTF-8 that you can see. But like the Chinese character has certain thing, and then Korean has certain things. So that's really the encodings. Okay, so I think Jarno answered the question, so I can move forward. So do you have any questions around the set the URL? Okay, so using request, so we got the HTML documents, but it's really we really need to parse the data so that we can sort of the process. So that's where the beautiful soups comes in. So to parse the HTML document and extract that HTML elements that I explained, so we have to use the beautiful soup library. So that's really the most common web scraping module for Python. So one thing, so since the way, as I mentioned before, the way we import the library, it affects kind of the way we write the Python code. So import requests, so we always have to put the request, so the name of the Python libraries before we use any functions from that library. But since the beautiful soup so from the BS4 libraries, we just call the beautiful soup directly. So we don't really need to specify like the BS4 dot beautiful soup. You can just directly write the beautiful soup. So that's why it's important to distinguish the way we import the library. So the first thing we need to do is really, so we have to really create the beautiful soup object and then assign this object to soup. So I'm going to create another variable called soup equal and then beautiful soup. And then so I want to parse this information to soup. So type response text. So that's the one that I want to parse using the HTML parser. Then we will see how it displays. So run the cell, and then voila, we got the parses the HTML document. So can you see the difference? Like the response.text, it's not really parsed, but after we parse the HTML document, then like we see sort of looks like the HTML document. But still, it's really hard to read through, as you can see, because we don't see where it starts, where it ends. So the other way to display this information more user-friendly is print. I think it's a pretty by of so print and soup. So that's the one that we got here, and then pretty by. And then if you run, then we can see the HTML document more easily. So either you can just type the soup or print soup.prettyfy. So it's basically the same thing, but this one is more user friendly and then easy to read through the HTML documents. So any questions about the parse HTML document? Okay, then the first step is, so we need to inspect the document. So you can inspect this long document in the Python environment, but again, like it's not really, because like every web document is really long and then it's not really easy to figure it out. So that's why the developer tools come in to inspect the web document easily. So let's say I want to scrap this important change at the library this spring. So if you go to the three dot, more tools, and then developer tools, and then click on this pointer, and then if you here, and then this brings me to the where it is located. And then I can see here, it is surrounded by H2 element. So what I'm going to do, oops. So what I'm going to do, so since we got this all information under soup, so soup dot find and then H2. And then let's see if it works. Yes, so I got H2 important changes at the library this spring, H2. But as you so as you notice here, I got also the H2 elements, so HTML elements. But let's say what I want is really just the text, important changes at the library this spring. So what I can do So here the element that text. So you can type soup find h2 and then text. And then this bring you just the text. So if I run, so voila, I just got the important changes at the library this spring. And then soup.find h2, you got the whole element of the h2. So any questions in order to find the element?
Yeah, could you go back to number 3, please? I missed the code.
No problem. So here, so basically we use the beautiful soup function in order to parse the document that we got from the request. So we create another variable and then assign this one to the soup.
Is there a way to iterate over all the H2 that might be in the document?
What do you mean? So if there are more than one H2?
Yeah, because that just finds the
Yes.
first instance.
Yes, so we are going through that one next.
Okay, sorry, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, thanks, it worked. I had used square brackets because it was so small, they looked like square brackets and I needed parentheses. That's why I wouldn't do it.
No problem. Do you want me to zoom in my screen or?
I'm good now. I zoomed
Okay.
in on my end. Thanks.
Okay. From text words, if I understand your questions correctly, Marie-José, usually the beautiful soup we can search by the HTML elements, things like that. And then if you just want to like match the text words, then I think you can use a regular expression. But if you want to sort of script those text words, then like you need to find the HTML text and then things like that. Okay. Okay, so so the soup find too. So that's really usually we got the first element, but let's say there are more than one H2, and then I want to grab all of them. So the way we can do is, I'm sorry. So let's say if I go back to the library website, I want to say like the grab sort of the H3 element like the chat, research, service, things like that, all of them, not just the first one. So in order to do that, you can type the soup find all and then H3. Oops, there is a misspelling. And then if there is a syntax error, you will get the error message. So find. So now I got the all H3 elements. So the chat, libraries, hours, books, and then physical collections need help and research service, and then virtual care package. But let's say I just want to scrap libraries, hours, books, and need help. And then the difference between these three elements and others, you can see there is a class attributes and its name. So you can grab only those by distinguish as soup.find all H3, but I'm gonna specify by the attributes. So say the how do you say this curly square? I guess in English.
Curly brackets?
Yes, curly bracket. Thank you. So and then the name of the attribute, which is the class, double colon, and then the value of that class name. So RT center And then if I run, then I just got this trees H3, where the class name is equal to RTE center. So you can play. So if you want to grab only very specific elements, then like you can use the class attributes. Then, so as you can see here, we got all the HTML elements like the H3, but let's say I just want to get the text only instead of all those elements. There is a way to do so. So we're gonna use like the subfind text, but it's a little bit more complicated because we have like the basically 3 lists of values. So in order to do that, we are gonna use the group bounds. So I'm gonna create another values called rows, and that's equal to sup find let's say h3, just say h3. I forgot the all. So rows sup find all h3, and then let's see how this. So I got this as a list. So in order to get the only just the text value, I can say, so I'm going to use the for loop in Python. So you can see for row in rows. So I'm going to go through each row, like the chat, libraries, hours, books, need help, research service, and the virtual care package in this rows list because we got this all of those lists here. And then just say row and then print and then row dot text. And then I got just the text. So chat, libraries, hours, and on-site services, books and physical collections, need help, research service, and virtual care package. So any questions so far? Okay, so that's one way to grab all those the text around the all elements, but there is another way that kind of more neat and more elegant. So I'm going to show you that one as well. So what we did here, we specified like one row, like the one line per line, just to better understand. But actually, you can put all of them into one single line, and that's really great benefits using Python as well. So like I can just put the rows here, and then equal, and then the bracket, and then I just say like row text for row in sup find all and h3, and then if I print out rows, and then I got exactly same result. So any questions? So either you can use this one or this one. It's up to you. But this might be really helpful when you combine all those things, then you can save them as CSV. Okay, we have, I think, 30 minutes left, so I can go to the another examples one more time all together, and then maybe we can do the one, or I prepared 2 more exercise, but we can do the one exercise if time's allowed. So another example, so let's say, so it's a same process again. So since we already import the libraries that we need to use, you don't need to import them again. So you don't need to do that. So that's why I skipped the first step. And then the second step, so we need to set the URL. And then the URL that I want to do is the media URL, because sometimes we want to know what types of media or title that the university sort of they push out. So I'm gonna do the media, so the Uorawa media website. So I'm going to set the URL. So since I used the URL variable already above, so I'm gonna just put the URL 1. So that's the new variable, and then I'm gonna copy and paste the name, the URL of the website. So that's our new URL. So we set the URL, and then we need to get that response from this media.uorawa.ca. So since I already used the response as variable above, so I'm going to just create response 1, and then that's request get from this URL 1. And then I'm gonna just see the status if we got the 200 result. Okay, so we got 200. That means the website is live. So we don't see any issues. So we got that response back, so that we need to parse the data. So again, like I already used the soup before. So what I'm gonna do, so I'm gonna create another object named soup1. And then the beautiful, so I'm going to use beautiful soup function, and then the response 1, and then response 1 and text, and then the HTML, the parser, and then the soup 1, if we get that one. So we got the URLs. Let me know if I'm too fast. So everyone is okay up to the parse HTML? Okay. And then the other way, so because this is not really user-friendly, so the other way to print out more user-friendly for us is print soup1.pretty file, and then that's more user-friendly. But it doesn't really matter because in terms of the inspected document, it's better to use the developer tool provided by the browser instead of using this one. So on this website, basically what I am interested, so I want to script sort of the title of like the need an expert Supreme Court of Canada renders decisions on carbon tax. So again, in order to inspect, so more tools, developer tools, and then the pointer. And then if I point here, so yes, it's around again the H3 and then A and then span element. So if I go back, so let's say it's soup1. So in the soup1 parse it document, so find H3. So need an expert Supreme Court of Canada render. So I got this elements here, all of them. But let's say again, like I just want to get the text. So the need an expert, so same thing. So here, soup1 find H3 and text. Or you can also use get text as well, but you got exactly same thing. So that's why, and then I prefer the shortest one. So I just put the text. And then we got the need an expert Supreme Court of Canada renders decision on carbon tax. And then let's say I want to get all of those titles, not just the first one. So again, in the soup1 object, find all, and then H3. So find all of the H3 documents. So I got all these 3 H3 documents. But you notice that, so here there is sort of the, yeah. And then again, I want just to get the text, not really all those HTML elements. So since I created the rows already, I'm going to create the rows 1. Sorry. Sorry, so rows 1, and then same again in the soup1 documents, find all H3. And then I'm gonna go through the group in order to get its text. So for row in rows in, and then print the row text. And then we got just the text information around these H3 elements. And then again, like I showed you, so the first way, but I'm going to show you the second way. So instead of write the code line by line, I just want to write everything in one line. Then you can say that like, so let's say I'm gonna put like the title of articles equal the brackets, and then row text for row in soup best one document, and then find all H3, and then print the title of article. And then we got the exactly same result. So any questions about all those demos? So that's basically really the nutshell of the web scraping with the Python. And then and then once you understand just this, and then you can really apply it to other things as well. So any questions so far?
Is there a way to quickly strip off the new line characters?
Yes, there is a way, like there is another Python library to do so. Yeah.
Okay,
But,
I thought maybe there was a function within Beautiful Soup for that, but that's fine. Thank you.
No. So any questions? Yes, you can script the numerical values as well. And then, so the key thing is if your HTML document is really well written or at least well organized, then like we can find that those numerical values around that element as well. So for example, if you want to script just the price of certain elements over the time just to see how it changed, then yes, that's possible. So anything really, not just the textual, like the strings, but the numerical values, yes. Okay, so what I want you to do, so the first exercise, so I'm gonna type the URL. Again, please don't edit directly in this document. So create your own copy first, please. So
It says, sorry, the file you have requested does not exist for me.
oh, the URL. Okay, let me. Let me share again. Okay, copy link. Can you get the link?
Now it works.
Okay, good. So again, please create your own copy first. So by file, either you can save in Drive or GitHub, whatever you want. So now I got my own copy as well. And then what I want you to do, so basically, so that's it's a simple exercise to help you sort of understand. So this is the faculty's website. And then there is a list of all the faculties available at the University of Ottawa, like the Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Education. And then what I want you to do is sort of scrub at the Faculty of Arts, Faculty of Education, Faculty of Engineering, so on so. So I put sort of the step by step, like the import, so the package set URL I already did here, and then write the code, and then parse your HTML file, and then extract faculties. So can you do that one maybe for 10 minutes? And then once you are done, please indicate in the chat that either green sign or thumbs up, please. And then along the way, if you have any questions, just please let me know. Maybe 2 more minutes. Okay, it seems like some of you already did. Do you have any questions in general? I put the answers in the right next slide. So you can compare how I did to yours. One thing that I wanted to mention at the beginning, but I forgot to mention, there is really only one right way to write any programming. So even if it's a little different, that's totally fine. There are so many ways to get the information. So the way I did, so basically, this is a new environment, so I import that request in Beautiful Soup, and then I set the URL, and then I request in order to get that URL using request, and then I just got the response as 200. And then the next step, so I want to parse that document. So using Beautiful Soup, I parse the document, and I got that document. And then I noticed that, so if you go back and then inspect the document, you can see this is around H2 header. So I'm going to use that H2 element. So and then since there is more than one, so I use the list. So the faculty text, and then I got the faculty text for faculty in soup find all H2. So I'm gonna just run just to show you how to save those information. Import, and then I got the 200 response. So I got all that document. And then save. So I save them as a list. And then let's say, so this is available in your in the Python environment, but let's say I want to save and then I want to export and then save them as CSV. So there is 2 things that you need to do. So one is the Panda and then the files. So I'm gonna just import them to my environment. And then I'm going to create a data frame called faculty. So the faculty of arts, so all that information. And then I'm going to save this data frame to CSV called as uorawa faculty.csv. And then I'm going to save them as UTF-8 and then download them as uorawa faculty CSV. So install. And then I got my uorawa faculty CSV. So that's the way to do so. I mean, I just wanted to include this information so that once you've done all the scraping and then sometimes you want to download them to CSV, so there is a way to do so. So any questions?
Can you scroll back up to number 4, please?
Number 4, yes, here.
Yeah, I did it with a for loop, but your method is cleaner.
I mean, again, there is really no right or wrong answer, so it's really up to you. but once you get it, that's fine. But I prefer this way because it's just one single line. Okay, since we have not many times left, I prefer the second exercise as well. And then let me copy it. So same thing again. So don't edit directly in this document. Always create your own copy, please. So I don't think that we can really finish within the time allowed. So you can do yourself because I put the step-by-step like the import and then set the URL and then parse the file. And then I asked like the external title, hosting institution description, and then stem fields. And then export to CSV and then save as CSV. So you can do this when you have a time, but I also provide already the answer so you can compare later as well. But don't look at the answer first. Always try to do yourself and then the compare. So that's all for today's workshop. And then I hope that this is helpful. And then please let me know if you have any questions or any suggestions to improve the workshop in general as well. And then here's my information. So if you want to contact me for any other questions or anything related to Python or the web scraping, just let me know or email me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. That was great.